Every superpower thinks it discovered something new about power. It hasn't. The same mistake costs empires their position. And it's happening again with Iran. Military strategists at West Point have documented this exact cycle for 80 years. What is the rule they keep forgetting? Start here. Power is not the same as victory. This is the first thing every expanding empire forgets. They build weapons, they project force, they win battles and think they've won the game. But the game was never about winning battles. The rule is ancient. It comes from Thucydides, it comes from Sun Tzu, it comes from every strategist worth reading. The rule is this: you cannot make other people do what you want them to do. You can make them obey, you can destroy them if they refuse, but you cannot make them want to do it. And the moment they stop wanting to, the moment resentment replaces fear, you have already lost the long game. Every superpower believes it is the exception. Every single one. Rome thought it had discovered the secret. It hadn't. Britain thought it had cracked the code. It hadn't. The Soviet Union thought it could enforce obedience through sheer force. It couldn't. Now watch what happens when you watch a country that still doesn't understand this. The principle breaks into three parts. These are not theories. These are patterns that repeat so often they are laws. The first pillar is this: forced compliance has an expiration date. You can make someone do something because they are terrified of the consequences, but terror is expensive. It requires constant surveillance. It requires constant threat. It requires proving that you will actually follow through on your threat. The moment a subject decides the risk of rebellion is worth the cost of compliance, the system collapses. It doesn't collapse slowly. It collapses fast. Examples are everywhere. Watch a colonial power try to rule a territory it does not understand, with an army that is stretched thin, trying to enforce rules that violate everything the locals believe. The system works for 5 years, or 10, or sometimes 20. Then it breaks overnight. The British learned this in India. France learned this in Vietnam. The Soviets learned this in Afghanistan. The second pillar is this: the cost of maintaining power grows while your ability to pay it shrinks. This is the thing that kills every empire. You must hold what you have conquered. Holding requires soldiers. Soldiers are expensive. The territory you conquered is often poor. The people inside it are hostile. So you must spend more and more money protecting a thing that generates less and less money. Eventually, the math breaks. You have more territory than you can afford to defend. Now you choose: withdraw or collapse from exhaustion. There is no third option. This happened to Spain with the New World. This happened to France and Algeria. This happened to the Soviet Union. Everywhere. The third pillar is this: opponents learn. This is the one everyone forgets. Your first victory comes because the enemy does not understand your tactics. Your second victory comes because they are adjusting. By your third victory, they are ready. They have adapted. They have asked themselves hard questions. They have learned. Sun Tzu said this: the enemy who loses battles but understands why is more dangerous than the enemy who wins battles and doesn't care. An enemy that is getting better while you are getting tired is an enemy that will eventually win. Now watch how this played out in reality. Take the war in Afghanistan. The United States did not lose Afghanistan to a superior force. The Taliban is not a superpower. The Taliban does not have aircraft. They do not have satellites. They do not have the technology advantage in any category. What they had was time. And what they learned was this: the American presence required constant defense of static infrastructure. Bases had to be protected. Supply lines had to be guarded. Airports had to be held. The Taliban did not fight these battles. They did not attack the bases directly. They waited. And while they waited, they studied. They learned that the Americans would withdraw if the cost got high enough. They learned that American politics worked on a timeline: 4 years, 8 years at most. The Taliban played on a different timeline. The Taliban knew that if they could survive for 20 years, the Americans would leave. And they could survive. They were home. The Americans were not. So the Taliban did not try to win. They just tried to not lose. And eventually time worked. 20 years. The Americans built the infrastructure to hold the country forever. The Taliban just had to be willing to wait longer than forever mattered. That is the fundamental imbalance. One side is thinking in decades. The other side is thinking in election cycles. One side can absorb losses for generations. The other side has a home to return to and a political system that demands results. This pattern has teeth. It repeats. Watch it now. The United States maintains a presence in the Middle East that is historically unprecedented. The bases are everywhere. The technology is cutting edge. The intelligence is supposedly superior. But the region does not want the presence. The region has made this clear for years. Now watch what happens when a regional power, not a superpower, just a regional power, decides that the presence is no longer acceptable. Iran has done this. Iran is not trying to conquer the United States. Iran is not trying to defeat American forces in open battle. That would be suicide. What Iran is doing is what every clever opponent does. It is making the presence more expensive. Drones, proxies, missiles, not weapons designed to win a war. Weapons designed to impose a cost. And every attack, no matter how minor, makes the American public ask the same question. Why are we still there? The Taliban asked this question once a day for 20 years. Iran is asking it multiple times a week, and the United States does not have a good answer. Not because the answer is complicated, because the answer does not exist. The presence in the Middle East is not sustainable forever. It is too expensive. It requires too many soldiers. It generates too many enemies. But withdrawal is politically dangerous. So the United States will do what every empire does. It will stay until it can't stay anymore, and then it will leave quickly, claiming victory, and the people who made those decisions will be long out of office by the time the cost is paid. This is not a prediction. This is a pattern. This is the rule. Every superpower forgets it, every single one. The rule is that power is not the same as victory. The rule is that forced compliance has an expiration date. The rule is that cost eventually exceeds capacity. The rule is that opponents learn. These are not controversial. These are not matters of opinion. These are mathematical certainties, and every empire that has believed it was different has been wrong. The belief that you are the exception is the first sign that you will become another cautionary tale in someone else's war college classroom.